It was March 22, 2025. Somewhere above the Red Sea the sky was clear, visibility was near perfect, and a U.S. Air Force F-16 Fighting Falcon cruised on routine patrol. Standard altitude, nothing out of the ordinary. Then ping! A warning light on the heads-up display flashes red. Radar lock, another blip, then another missile launch. Brake, brake, brake! The pilot slams the stick, instincts kick in, the F-16 rolls hard right, flares popping, countermeasures deployed. A heat signature slices through the air. An infrared-guided SIAD missile just fired from a Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen. Fast, silent, and meant to kill. The jet dives, engines screaming. Below the radar, jamming Growler team lights up the airwaves. Above, an E-2D Hawkeye spins into Overwatch from the deck of the USS Eisenhower. Operators are watching this unfold in real time. The missile adjusts course in mid-air, it's tracking the engine's heat plume. 30 seconds to impact. The pilot pulls a tight 9G turn, every inch of aircraft groaning under the strain. Fox 3 defensive, he shouts over comms. A final flare blooms from behind the jet, brilliant, hot, confusing the missile seeker. Boom! The missile detonated in mid-air, too far to matter. The jet lives, but now the question isn't how the Houthis got a missile this close, it's what happens when you fire one and miss. Because this wasn't just a dogfight, this was bait. The missile didn't just come out of nowhere. For weeks the Red Sea had been heating up, figuratively and literally. Commercial tankers rerouted, US destroyers crisscrossing the waves, and the Houthi forces getting bold, real bold. This wasn't the first time they tried something like this either. Just a few days earlier, a US MQ-9 Reaper drone was shot down off the coast of Yemen. It didn't even get a chance to react. The Houthis claimed it on Telegram within minutes, posting shaky footage of flaming wreckage tumbling into the ocean like a trophy. That move, that didn't go unanswered either, but it emboldened them, and that's when they made the next mistake, thinking a drone and a fighter jet were the same kind of prey. The US had already issued warnings, carrier strike groups had shifted formation, Aegis destroyers were repositioned. But the Houthis, backed by Iranian tech and training, believed that they could keep escalating without real consequence. So when an American F-16 flew into their radar net, they fired. Only this time, the jet fired back. You see, that F-16 wasn't just randomly patrolling, it was part of a broader ISR net, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance designed to sniff out missile activity along the Yemen coast. And what that pilot didn't know at that moment was that he was the final threat in a very dangerous game of bait and trap. Because in recent weeks, the Pentagon had authorized a shift in posture. No more waiting. If a radar spiked on the wrong aircraft, it was now considered hostile. If a launch occurred, retaliation would be automatic. The rules of engagement had changed, quietly, formally, and in this case the Houthi launcher had made the ultimate mistake. It lit up long enough to be seen, fired once, and stayed in place just a few minutes too long. That would be its last mistake. Because back aboard the USS Eisenhower, the pilot's call wasn't just received, it was recorded, analyzed, and turned into targeting data. Live feed, thermal signature, missile trajectory, GPS lock. The retaliation clock had already started ticking. At 28,000 feet, the F-16 was still burning west, hugging the edge of Yemen airspace. The pilot had barely recovered from the evasive maneuver when his RWR, or radar warning receiver, lit up again. New contact, different angle. The first missile had missed, but there was more. This time it wasn't just one signal. It was a burst, multiple radar locks, staggered and fast. The pilot's ALR-56M system screamed in his headset, "Threat, SA-6 lock." An SA-6, classic Cold War-era Soviet SAM, but the Houthis had been seen using Iranian copies of the same tech. SIAD-class systems upgraded with better seekers and mobile launchers. Slow to set up, even slower to hide, but when active, they were deadly, and they were locked on. The pilot's left hand gripped the throttle, afterburners engaged, His right hand toggled the countermeasure system, prepping for another flare dump. Behind him, the exhaust glowed white-hot against the cool desert night, a perfect infrared target for any heat-seeking warhead. Viper 3 defensive, multiple locks, repeat, multiple launch points, request support. Overhead, a growler from VAC 140, the Patriots, was already jamming. Bursts of electromagnetic disruption poured into the air like invisible smoke, scrambling Houthi radar systems. It gave that F-16 a sliver of time. He dipped the nose and pushed it into a hard dive. The G's pinned him to a seat, blood drained, vision tunneled, but he held the vector high-speed low, drag evasive. Flares burst in waves like fireworks behind a ghost. The pilot banked again, then yanked the jet into a barrel roll at 700 knots just in time. One of the incoming SEADs missed by maybe 200 feet, close enough to rattle the canopy. But that was it. That was their chance. Because what the Houthis didn't know was that they were being watched the entire time from way high above. At nearly 60,000 feet, a Navy MQ-4C Triton drone had been circling in wide ISR loops. It wasn't armed, but it didn't need to be. Its job was eyes, and its eyes saw everything. Thermal spikes on the ground, electronic pulses, precise coordinates, all streamed back in real time to SANCOM and, more importantly, to the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. The engagement had lasted less than 2 minutes, but the fallout would take hours to clean up. When the pilot returned to a holding pattern above the Red Sea, 2 more aircraft joined the airspace. First, a second F-16 from the 421st Fighter Squadron pulled up on its wing, scanning for fresh threats. Then came the call from command, engagement confirmed, target data locked, hold position, birds en route, translation, strike package inbound. But even before the jets launched, the Navy wasn't wasting time. Deep in the belly of an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer sailing nearby, VLS cells were opening. VLS, vertical launch systems, inside Tomahawk cruise missiles, precision-guided, long-range, and ready for immediate launch. The launch order came in less than 5 minutes after the missile threat ended. Target Alpha, Fire 1, confirmed trajectory. 1 missile, then 2, then 4, each screaming up into the night sky, silent afterburn, curving east towards the Yemen coast. And this was just the start. On deck of the USS Truman, it was already spinning up for a second phase air power. Pilots were being briefed, weapons loaded, jets fueled. This wasn't improvisation, it was playbook stuff. The moment that missile launched, the response was already in motion. The missile had failed, but its data had succeeded. It gave the US Navy a window, a confirmed location, a launch site, and a tactical footprint. And in modern warfare, that's all you need. Because retaliation wasn't just coming, it was coordinated, layered, and lethal. While the Tomahawks flew low over the waves, the aircraft launched in sequence. First out was an E-2D Hawkeye electronic overwatch, and next a pair of EA-18G Growlers, electronic warfare platforms armed to blind radar and scramble comms. And then the hammers, 4 FA-18 Super Hornets loaded with GBU-38 JDAMs and AGM-88 HARM missiles. Target package simple. Missile launcher site primary, suspected command post secondary, mobile radar truck spotted via drone thermal tertiary. One by one, the Hornet's Cat launched into the sky, wings loaded, flaps down, engines howling as the strike group closed in. The Growlers began their run, and they broadcast wideband jamming lighting up the spectrum. The Houthis likely had no idea they were even being targeted until the first explosion lit up the coast. The Tomahawks hit first, the radar trailer gone, the launcher fragmented and burning. Then came the Hornets. From 25,000 feet, JDAMs fell, silent and accurate, impact after impact. Secondary explosions confirmed ammo, fuel, maybe more missiles hidden nearby. The final strike, a HARM missile locked onto a last-ditch radar pulse from a mountaintop station. By the time it hit, the air was already thick with smoke. Back in the cockpit of the original F-16, the pilot listened to the comms with a quiet intensity. No celebration, just confirmation. Target neutralized, strike successful, RTB, return to base. The sky over the Red Sea was calm again, but this time the silence was earned, and the message was clear. If you launch at a US jet, you better pray it hits, because if it doesn't, the next thing coming isn't another missile. It's everything. They say modern war is fast, but this was surgical. The moment the F-16's data feed locked into that missile trail, before it even dodged the blast, the US Navy already had what it needed. Timestamps, telemetry, launch vector, GPS coordinates, and thermal spike signatures. The strike group didn't just see it happen, they saw where it happened, and everything inside the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Eisenhower, the vibe shifted from defensive posture to offensive readiness. No shouting, no scrambling, just crisp voices calling out status reports and targeting locks. Telemetry confirmed, launch grid locked, target alpha hot. The Eisenhower's commanding officer didn't even hesitate. One phrase was all it took. Package Bravo, execute. And with that, the retaliation protocol kicked in. So, what is Package Bravo? Well, in Navy terms, Package Bravo isn't a slap on the wrist, it's a hammer to the head. It's the name for a multi-domain strike sequence involving media group, fighter jets launching from aircraft carrier deck, US Navy destroyer firing cruise missiles, electronic warfare operators at consoles at its stock at it distribute _ equally, cruise missiles, airstrikes, and coordinated electronic warfare. The targets are any confirmed offensive systems that fire on US aircraft or even dare to lock on, and the Houthis had just triggered it. And the plan unfolded in layers. From the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer about 100 miles off the Yemen coast, VLS cells began to open up like mechanical flowers. These are 25-foot vertical tubes packed with Tomahawk missiles, long-range, GPS-guided and brutally accurate. They don't need pilots, they don't even need confirmation, they just need a target. And now they had several. 4 Tomahawks launched in sequence, not in a rush, no fireworks, just a quiet thrust and vanishing arcs. Missile Site Alpha confirmed CIAD Launcher Target 1, Mobile Radar Vehicle Target 2, Suspected C2 Command and Control Hub near Ras Isa Target 3, Ammo Storage Depot picked up via MQ-4C Thermal Scan Target 4. Each one plotted, programmed, and en route within 5 minutes. Meanwhile, 70 miles away aboard the USS Truman, the flight deck was coming alive. Steam hissed across the catapults, red shirts locked in munitions, GBU-38 JDAMs and AGM-88 HARMs, while green shirts refueled jets with machine-like precision. Yellow shirts waved FA-18 Super Hornets into position. The smell of jet fuel and salt air hit like adrenaline. Above it all, an E-2D Hawkeye had already launched, spinning its radar dish, painting a real-time map of everything in the air and on the ground. Moments later, 2 EA-18G Growlers roared into the sky. These aren't your average attack aircraft, they're flying blackout machines, armed with ALQ-218 receivers and jamming pods. The Growler's job is to turn Houthi radar into static, no lock-ons, no guidance, just confusion and chaos. Following the Growlers, the payload 4 FA-18 Super Hornets, each fully loaded, hard points packed with joint direct attack munitions and high-speed anti-radiation missiles. Smart bombs and radar seekers designed to follow signals and blow them to hell. High above all this, a Navy MQ-4C Triton drone was still circling, not a sound, just cold optics and warm targets. It monitored everything: post-strike heat plumes, vehicle movements, potential evacuations. The second any Houthi unit tried to hide, it was flagged. Data flowed in from the Triton to a relay satellite, then straight to the Eisenhower's fire control team, and they were ready to redirect strike assets in real time if needed. This wasn't revenge, it was architecture. At exactly 2:12 local time, the first Tomahawk hit, Missile Site Alpha obliterated. Surveillance drones confirmed secondary explosions indicating a stockpile of ordnance. The heat signature stayed hot for over 20 minutes. 2 minutes later, Target 2, the radar truck lit up the coast in a bloom of orange. Its emissions had pinged one last time, enough for a HARM missile to home in like a bloodhound. Then came Target 3, The suspected command post had been buried into a hillside covered with camo netting. Didn't matter. One JDAM from 20,000 feet blew the door off the bunker, a second collapsed it in on itself. Target 4, the ammo depot, was a fireworks show. The FA-18s had dropped in low, fast and clean, their bomb racks now empty. They climbed back into the clouds. No losses, no alarms, just silence and smoldering debris on the ground. While the physical strikes happened, the Growlers ran interference. They jammed every known Houthi frequency, scrambled early warning radars, and spoofed their detection systems into seeing ghost fleets. In other words, while the Houthis tried to figure out what hit them, they couldn't even talk about it. No comms, no signals, just fear, smoke, and blank screens, and that was that. They fired at a fighter jet, they got a war machine in return. The Houthis, and by extension their Iranian sponsors, learned a brutal lesson. You might hit a slow drone with a lucky shot, but when you try the same move on a fully loaded F-16 or FA-18, the response won't be another drone. It will be a synchronized, multi-layered counterstrike that leaves nothing standing. And that matters, because warfare isn't just about weapons, it's about perception. The Houthis lost equipment, but more importantly, they lost face. They showed their hand, and the US didn't just slap it away, it crushed it with precision and steel and electromagnetic fury. Now every Houthi radar operator will, think twice before flipping the switch, because they'll have to ask themselves, is this the one that gets me vaporized? Even though the US didn't issue a single press release, the world definitely got the message. Satellite intel leaked, analysts picked up the patterns, news cycles caught whispers, and every military power watching, China, Russia, Iran, they all took notes. The takeaway here? You don't mess with US air power unless you're ready to play a different game. One where the US doesn't just react, it actually redefines the battlefield. In the middle of the conflict, right after the strike, the carrier air wing shifted into full combat air patrol mode. That means at least 2 armed jets in the air, 24/7, circling, scanning, and ready to respond within seconds. The Houthis thought they could fire at an American fighter jet and just get away with it. They were wrong. Dead wrong. They didn't just lose a missile, they lost a playbook, they lost assets, and most importantly, they lost momentum. But here's the question I want to throw to you. If you were in command that night, would you have stopped after neutralizing the launcher or gone further and wiped out every radar site along the coast? Be honest, be strategic, and drop your thoughts in the comments. We will read every single one. And while you're there, if this video gave you chills, clarity, or just a deeper respect for the precision of modern warfare, do us a favor, like the video so we know you're locked in. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the next incident before it even hits the headlines. And hit the notification bell so you're the first in when the next mission drops. But if you want to go one step further and support the channel directly, join the fleet. You'll get loyalty badges, priority replies, and help us bring more real naval stories to the surface. Just click join on our channel page and step aboard. Until next time, stay sharp, stay safe, and remember, one missile can start a war, but the response ends it. Thanks for watching.